so sorry, sir.
Oh, don't worry about it. These things happen.
She was just a poor maid when she bravely warned her billionaire boss not to marry his fiancée. He laughed in her face, called her jealous, and fired her on the spot. Humiliated, she left with nothing but her dignity. 2 years later, their paths crossed again, and what happened next left everyone stunned. This is the story of a maid's warning, a billionaire's arrogance, and the twist that turned the tables. Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please, subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together, we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. The night was too quiet for a house that big. The Bennett mansion sat on top of the hill like a sleeping beast, tall windows glowing with soft yellow light, guards walking the gates, and maids finishing their final rounds before midnight. The air smelled of polished wood and roses from the garden. Everything looked perfect, almost too perfect. But perfection often hides noise that nobody's meant to hear. Clara Miller moved carefully through the west hallway, holding a silver tray with teacups and a small pot of chamomile tea. Her hands were tired, but she didn't mind. She'd been working since sunrise, cleaning, serving, smiling, the kind of work that makes you invisible but keeps the world running. Mrs. Turner, the head housekeeper, had asked her to bring tea to Vanessa Clark, Mr. Bennett's fiancée, who was in the study making calls. "Be quick," Mrs. Turner had warned. "She doesn't like to be disturbed." Clara nodded politely. "Yes, ma'am." She'd been working for the Bennetts for a year now. The pay wasn't much, but she needed the job. Her mother was sick back home in Ohio, and the paycheck covered her medicine. Clara knew her place in the house. Quiet, invisible, always respectful. But that night, something happened that changed everything. As Clara approached the study door, she heard Vanessa's voice, sharp, cold, and nothing like the sweet tone she used around Ethan. Clara froze. The door was slightly open, and Vanessa was pacing inside, her back to the door. "No, listen to me," Vanessa hissed into her phone. "Ethan's completely under my control." "The fool thinks we're in love. Once the marriage is done, everything he owns will be in my name. Then we move the funds and disappear. Simple." Clara's breath caught. She stood still, gripping the tray. The teapot rattled slightly from her trembling hand. She thought she misheard, but Vanessa's next words sliced through the air. "Yes, Adrian," Vanessa said softly now, almost purring. "You'll get your share. Just play your part. He trusts me completely. The prenup. I'll make sure he never brings it up again." There was a short silence, then a laugh. Cold and cruel. "Oh, please," Vanessa added. "You think I care about that idiot's feelings? I just care about his fortune. Once it's done, I'm done with him. He can cry to his money. Oh wait, he won't have any." Clara felt sick. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. The woman everyone adored, the woman Ethan Bennett planned to marry in 2 weeks, was planning to ruin him. Her mind raced. Maybe she should walk away. This wasn't her business. But how could she live with herself knowing her boss, who treated her kindly enough, was walking straight into a trap? She stepped back. The floor creaked under her shoe. Vanessa spun around instantly. "Who's there?" Clara panicked. She pushed the door open with the tray in hand and forced a nervous smile. "I'm sorry, Mom. I brought your tea." Vanessa's eyes narrowed for a second, scanning Clara's face. Then her smile returned. The same fake, flawless smile that fooled everyone. "Ah, Clara," she said smoothly, hanging up her phone. "You startled me." "I didn't mean to," Clara said quietly, placing the tray down. Her heart was pounding so loudly she could barely hear her own voice. Vanessa lifted the teacup, pretending to sip, her gaze fixed on Clara. You didn't hear anything, did you? Clara hesitated. No, ma'am, she lied. Vanessa smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. Good. Because eavesdropping can be a terrible habit. It can get people dismissed. Clara nodded, lowered her head and hurried out of the room. She couldn't sleep that night. The mansion was silent, but her mind wasn't. She kept hearing Vanessa's words. Everything he owns will be in my name. Ethan didn't deserve that. He was proud, maybe too proud, but he wasn't cruel. He paid his staff well, remembered birthdays, even helped one of the gardeners pay for his kids' college. He trusted Vanessa completely. By dawn, Clara made up her mind. She had to tell him, even if it cost her everything. It was late afternoon when Clara finally gathered the courage. Ethan Bennett was in his home office, overlooking the lake behind the estate. He was typing on his laptop, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly messy, the kind of effortless charm rich men are born with. When Clara knocked softly, he looked up. Clara, right? What is it? She hesitated. Sir, I need to tell you something important. He frowned slightly, but gestured for her to come in. What's wrong? Did something happen in the house? Clara closed the door behind her, her palms sweaty. It's about Miss Clark, she began carefully. Immediately his tone changed. Vanessa? What about her? Clara swallowed hard. Last night I overheard something. I didn't mean to, sir, I promise. But she was on the phone, and she said things that didn't sound right. Ethan leaned back in his chair, eyebrows raised. Go on. She said she was going to... Clara paused, afraid to say it. She said she was going to take your fortune, that after the wedding, everything would be in her name. Ethan blinked, then laughed. A short, dry laugh. You're joking, right? No, sir, Clara said quickly. I swear I heard her. She mentioned someone named Adrian. That's enough, Ethan snapped, standing up. Do you even hear yourself right now? Vanessa, my fiancée. You're accusing her of plotting against me? Clara's voice trembled. Sir, I wouldn't say it if I wasn't sure. I just thought you should know. Please be careful. Ethan slammed his desk. Enough! Do you know how many people tried to come between us already? My family, business partners, even friends. And now you? I'm not trying to come between you, Clara pleaded. I just don't want to see you hurt. He gave a cold, bitter smile. You think I can't see what this is about? You've always been around, always quiet, always watching. Maybe you thought if you could make her look bad, you'd get my sympathy. Clara's eyes widened. Sir, no! I'd never... Stop! His voice echoed through the room. I trusted you to work here, and this is how you repay me. By spreading lies about my fiancé? Just then, the door opened. Vanessa stepped in. Perfect timing. Her expression was soft, innocent, the perfect act. What's going on here? She asked sweetly, looking between them. Ethan turned to her, his voice sharp. Apparently, my maid thinks you're trying to steal my money. Vanessa gasped, covering her mouth. Oh my God! What? Clara, how could you say something like that? Her eyes filled with fake tears. I've always been kind to you. I even gave you my old dresses. Miss Clark, I didn't mean... Clara began, but Vanessa turned away, crying harder. Ethan, please, Vanessa said between sobs. If she hates me, fine. But to say such a horrible thing, it hurts. Ethan's jaw tightened. Clara Miller, you're finished here. Pack your things. Clara froze. Sir, please. I said pack your things. His voice thundered through the office. You're fired. Effective immediately. Mrs. Turner rushed in after hearing the commotion, her face pale. Sir, please, maybe there's been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, Ethan said firmly. I will not have my staff spreading lies about my fiancé. She leaves tonight. Clara felt her chest tighten. She wanted to scream the truth, show him the truth. But there was no proof, just her word against Vanessa's crocodile tears. She looked at Vanessa, who now stood behind Ethan, her lips curved in a tiny, victorious smirk. Clara saw it. Ethan didn't. Tears filled Clara's eyes, but she stood straight. "I only told you because I care, sir," she said quietly, "not because I wanted anything." Ethan turned away, already done with her. "Goodbye, Clara." Mrs. Turner tried to hold Clara's hand, whispering, "Don't say another word, dear. Just go." As she walked out of the mansion, the rest of the staff whispered among themselves. Some pitied her, others looked away, afraid to be next. The sun was setting, painting the driveway gold as Clara stepped out for the last time. She paused by the big iron gates, her small bag in hand, the mansion glowing behind her like a place from another world, the world she'd never belonged to. She wiped her tears, looked back once and whispered, "One day, Mr. Bennet, you'll remember what I said." Then she walked down the hill, alone, but with her dignity intact, the only thing no one could take from her. Truth isn't always believed when it comes from the poor. Sometimes silence protects liars and honesty destroys the brave. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give a future to children and women who have been abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Also, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from and how did this story speak to you? The wedding looked like something out of a dream, the kind of dream money buys. White roses lined the grand staircase of the Bennet estate, and chandeliers sparkled like captured stars. Reporters crowded the gates. Helicopters hovered overhead for the perfect aerial shot of America's golden couple, Ethan Bennet, the billionaire heir, and Vanessa Clark, the woman every magazine called a modern-day princess. Everyone wanted a piece of their love story. Only Clara Miller wasn't there to see it. When Ethan stood at the altar that day, he believed he had everything. He didn't see the warning in the way Vanessa's smile didn't reach her eyes. He didn't notice how her fingers tightened around his when the vows were spoken, as if she was claiming a prize, not a husband. After the ceremony, he kissed her in front of flashing cameras and whispered, "I told you they were wrong about us." She smiled up at him. "Yes, darling. You were right. The next few months were picture perfect. Or so it seemed. Every magazine cover showed their laughter, their trips to Europe, their charity galas. Vanessa shined beside him, always dressed to perfection, always saying the right thing. But inside the Bennet home, things had started to change. It began with little things. Vanessa started organizing Ethan's schedule, saying he was overworked. Soon his meetings were cancelled without his consent. Calls from old friends went unanswered. His mother complained she barely saw him anymore. "Your family's exhausting," Vanessa said one night, pouring herself a glass of wine. "They don't respect boundaries. You need peace. You have me." Ethan smiled tiredly. "You're right. I guess I do need some quiet." He didn't notice how one by one the people closest to him began to fade from his life. His best friend, Daniel, stopped coming around. His assistant was replaced. Even Mrs. Turner, the head housekeeper, was quietly dismissed when Vanessa accused her of meddling. The house grew quieter, colder. Vanessa filled the silence with shopping sprees, trips, and charity events that always seemed to involve her business associate, Adrian Cole. Adrian was everything Ethan wasn't. Younger, adventurous, and dangerously charming. To the world, he was Vanessa's friend and investment advisor. Behind closed doors, he was much more. One night, Vanessa approached Ethan with an idea. She wore a silk robe, her hair down, her tone soft and persuasive. "Ethan, love," she began, sitting beside him. Adrian just told me about a private investment overseas. It's huge. Renewable energy, government-backed, guaranteed profits. We could double our fortune in 6 months. Ethan looked uncertain. I don't know. My father always said to stay out of unverified deals. Vanessa leaned in, her voice smooth. This isn't unverified. Adrian knows the people involved. You trust me, don't you? He hesitated. Of course I trust you. Then trust my judgment. You know I'd never lead you wrong. Her eyes held his, soft and sweet. He gave in. Within a month, millions were moved. Ethan signed papers he didn't fully read, reassured by Vanessa's perfect confidence. The first signs of trouble came quietly. A few payments were delayed. Then emails went unanswered. Adrian became hard to reach. Vanessa brushed it off. These things take time. Stop worrying so much, darling. It's unattractive. Ethan laughed weakly, but something inside him began to stir. The same unease he once ignored in Clara's trembling voice 2 years earlier. Weeks passed, then months. The headlines changed. The Bennett's empire was shrinking. Stock prices fell. Investors started whispering. Ethan tried to contact Adrian personally, but the man had gone abroad. He started asking Vanessa questions. Where's Adrian? He's traveling. When's he coming back? I don't know, Ethan. You're acting paranoid. Each answer came sharper than the last. One stormy evening, Ethan walked into his office to find Vanessa sitting at his desk, her laptop open, her expression distant. What are you doing? He asked. Nothing important, she said quickly, closing the laptop. Let me see. Ethan, please, she snapped. Don't start again. He stepped closer and grabbed the laptop before she could move it. His eyes scanned the screen. Offshore transfers, coded names, account movements. Vanessa, he said slowly, what is this? She stood up, smirking now, the softness gone. It's business. You wouldn't understand. You used my company's funds? His voice shook. You moved money without telling me. Oh, don't act like you were paying attention, she said, crossing her arms. You wanted to be blind, Ethan. I just helped you stay that way. Ethan felt the ground slipping under him. How could you? I trusted you. Vanessa laughed. A short, cruel laugh. You shouldn't have. The argument grew ugly. Ethan shouted, demanding answers. Vanessa's mask finally fell away. You think I ever loved you? She sneered. You were a project. A spoiled man who thought he could buy devotion. I gave you what you wanted, until I didn't need to anymore. He stared at her, unable to breathe. You're lying. She leaned close, her eyes cold. Ask Adrian. Adrian, he whispered. You mean... She smiled faintly. He's the one I actually love, and he's smarter than you'll ever be. Before Ethan could respond, she brushed past him and walked out, calm, unbothered, and leaving behind the faint smell of expensive perfume and betrayal. Days later, the truth exploded. The overseas investment was a scam. Millions were gone. Adrian Cole's real name turned out to be Marcus Hale, a known fraudster under investigation for multiple financial crimes. By the time the police got involved, Vanessa and Adrian had already disappeared. The Bennett's empire collapsed almost overnight. Investors sued. Properties were seized. Ethan's name became a headline for all the wrong reasons. Billionaire duped by wife and partner. From fortune to failure, the Bennett downfall. He lost everything, his company, his friends, his reputation. Even his family turned away, tired of the scandals. One rainy evening, Ethan sat alone in his penthouse, the only property left under his name. Boxes surrounded him. The lights were off except for one dim lamp. He stared at the empty glass in his hand and the reflection of a man he barely recognized. The proud, confident Ethan Bennett was gone. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. He opened it. It was a photo. Vanessa and Adrian on a yacht, smiling, champagne in hand. The caption read, "No hard feelings, darling. Hope you learned something." Ethan's hand shook. He dropped the phone, breathing hard. He felt anger rise, then despair, then something deeper. Regret. He thought of Clara, her frightened eyes, her trembling voice when she said, "Please, sir, be careful." He remembered how he'd shouted at her, how he'd fired her in front of everyone. She was right, he whispered, voice breaking. God, she was right. He covered his face with his hands and sat in silence as the storm raged outside. The next morning, Ethan drove to the old Bennett estate, now half empty, stripped of its glory. The once vibrant gardens were dying, the fountain dry. He walked through the hall where he'd fired Clara and felt something crack inside him. Mrs. Turner's voice echoed in his memory. "Don't say another word, dear. Just go." He stood where Clara once stood, imagining her tear-streaked face as she whispered her final words. "One day, Mr. Bennett, you'll remember what I said." And now he did. For weeks, Ethan barely left his apartment. Reporters camped outside. Former employees sent angry messages. He ignored them all. One day, Daniel, his old friend, showed up unannounced. "Man, you look terrible," Daniel said, setting down a bag of groceries. "You need help." Ethan gave a bitter smile. "You were right too." "Everyone was," Daniel sighed. "We tried to warn you, Ethan. She had everyone fooled. But you wanted to believe in her so badly." Ethan stared out the window, voice low. "Because I didn't want to be alone. She made me feel needed. That was my mistake." Daniel nodded quietly. "So what now?" Ethan shrugged. "Now? I start over. Somehow." He didn't know how, but deep down, he knew this fall was his punishment. For arrogance, for blindness, for ignoring the truth that came from the only honest heart in his house. Weeks turned into months. Ethan sold what little he had left, moved into a small apartment downtown, and started working with a small business firm, trying to rebuild his life from scratch. But no matter how much time passed, one voice never left his mind: Clara's. The maid he had humiliated turned out to be the only person who truly cared enough to speak the truth. And every time he closed his eyes, he could still hear her quiet warning echo through his guilt. "Please, sir, be careful." The city skyline glittered under the night sky like a sea of diamonds, beautiful, distant, untouchable. Somewhere among those lights, Clara Miller looked out from her apartment balcony, a quiet smile curving her lips. 2 years ago, she'd left the Bennett mansion humiliated and jobless. Now she stood in a tailored navy blue dress, a woman who'd built something from nothing. The maid they once laughed at was gone. After Ethan fired her, Clara wandered for months, working odd cleaning jobs just to survive. It was during one of those long days that fate, or grace, stepped in. She was hired to care for an elderly woman named Margaret Hale, a retired philanthropist living alone in a quiet suburb. Mrs. Hale had sharp eyes and a kind heart, the kind that saw beyond uniforms and titles. "You remind me of myself," Mrs. Hale told Clara once as she poured tea. "You have the kind of strength money can't buy." Clara smiled politely. "I don't feel strong, ma'am." Mrs. Hale chuckled. "That's how real strength feels. Quiet, not loud." Over the next year, Clara became more than a caregiver. She became family. She read to Mrs. Hale, cooked her meals, and sat with her through sleepless nights. In return, Mrs. Hale taught her things about people, business, and self-worth. "When people look down on you," Mrs. Hale once said, "it says more about them than you. You just keep building quietly. Let time do the talking." Those words stayed with Clara long after Mrs. Hale passed away peacefully in her sleep. A month later, Clara received a letter from the estate lawyer. Mrs. Hale had left her a small inheritance, not millions, but enough to change her life. Along with the money came a handwritten note, "For the woman who served with dignity and never forgot her worth. Use this to build something honest. The world needs more people like you. Monsieur Hale." Tears had filled Clara's eyes as she read it. She promised herself she wouldn't waste the gift. With that money, Clara started a small cleaning service, Pure Touch Home Care. It began with 2 clients and a borrowed van. Clara worked day and night, handling every task herself. She treated her clients with respect and professionalism, no matter how small the job. Her honesty and attention to detail earned her word-of-mouth fame. Within 2 years, the business grew into a thriving cleaning and property management company. She hired staff, many of them single mothers and women who'd been mistreated in service jobs just like her. She treated them fairly, paid them well, and trained them with pride. Soon, Pure Touch wasn't just cleaning homes. They were managing estates, corporate offices, and even luxury events. So when she received an invitation to the Silvercrest Charity Gala, an annual event for the city's elite, she didn't hesitate. Her company was one of the evening's sponsors. Clara stood before her mirror the night of the event. Her reflection looked like a stranger, elegant hair, diamond earrings, calm smile. She whispered softly, "You did it, Mama. You really did it." Then she picked up her clutch, straightened her shoulders, and left. The ballroom was breathtaking, golden lights, champagne glasses clinking, and music soft enough to let whispers carry. It was the kind of place where people smiled with their mouths, but judged with their eyes. Clara entered quietly, but heads turned. Her presence carried confidence, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that glows. She greeted a few guests, most of them business contacts. None recognized her from her maid days. And why would they? The timid housemaid was gone. But one man across the room noticed her instantly. Ethan Bennett. He was standing near the bar, wearing a slightly worn suit, his posture heavy with regret. His once polished charm had dulled. He'd lost weight, his eyes darker, his confidence gone. For a moment, he just stared at her. He didn't believe what he was seeing. The woman who'd once begged him to listen, now gliding across the room like she belonged there. "Clara?" he whispered, almost to himself. She turned, caught his gaze and smiled politely. "Mr. Bennett." His throat tightened. You look different." "People change," she said simply. "How have you been?" He hesitated. Surviving. There was so much he wanted to say. Apologies, regrets, maybe even gratitude. But before he could speak, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Well, if it isn't the help," Vanessa Clark purred, her laugh sharp as broken glass. Clara turned slowly. Vanessa stood there in a sparkling silver gown, her hand resting possessively on the arm of Adrian Cole, or rather, Marcus Hale, though she still called him by his fake name. Vanessa's eyes travelled over Clara's dress with mock surprise. "You clean up well, I'll give you that. Who let you in here? Are you working the event?" Adrian chuckled. "Probably owns the cleaning crew." Clara smiled softly. "Actually, I own the company that's managing tonight's event, so in a way, yes, I am working, just not for you." Vanessa's fake smile flickered. "You," she said, disbelief dripping from her voice. "You own Pure Touch?" "That company's everywhere lately." "Everywhere honest work is appreciated," Clara said calmly. "You'd be surprised what a little integrity can build." Adrian shifted uncomfortably. Ethan watched silently, the humiliation on his face replaced by something else, pride. Vanessa's tone sharpened. "Careful, dear. Don't forget where you came from." "Oh, I never do," Clara said, meeting her eyes. "But it's funny. I don't remember you being this nervous the last time we met." Vanessa stiffened. Nervous. Please. I've moved on from your kind of world. Clara tilted her head. Have you? Because from what I hear, you're about to lose quite a bit of your world. Vanessa frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Clara's expression didn't change. You'll find out soon enough. Let's just say life has a way of cleaning up its own messes, if you wait long enough. Vanessa's lips parted, but no words came. Ethan, standing nearby, almost smiled, just a little. As the night went on, Clara mingled with investors and clients, her name now whispered with respect. Meanwhile, Vanessa and Adrian were approached by several guests, men in dark suits with serious expressions. Word spread quickly. Authorities were reopening the coal investment fraud case. Someone had tipped them off, with detailed evidence. Vanessa's laughter faded as she saw two detectives at the entrance. Adrian froze. Ethan watched everything unfold, knowing exactly who had provided the evidence. Later, when Vanessa turned toward Clara in panic, Clara simply raised her glass and nodded once. Calm, collected, untouchable. Security escorted Vanessa and Adrian out quietly as whispers filled the room. Some guests looked shocked, others smirked. Karma served cold in a designer gown. After the chaos, Ethan approached Clara again. Was that your doing? He asked softly. Clara looked down at her glass. I didn't expose them. The truth did. I just helped it find the right hands. He nodded slowly. You didn't have to. I know, she said, but some debts can't be left unpaid. He swallowed hard. Clara, I'm sorry. For everything. She studied his face. The pride was gone, replaced by humility and something that looked like pain. I believe you, she said quietly, and I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. He gave a small, sad smile. I understand. There was a pause. Then Clara said softly, You were meant for better, Mr. Bennett. Maybe now you'll find it. He nodded again. And you found your peace. She smiled faintly. I found myself. That's enough. Later that night, after the gala ended, Clara walked out onto the terrace alone. The city lights shimmered below, and the cool wind brushed against her skin. Ethan was gone. Vanessa and Adrian were in custody. The chapter that began with humiliation had finally closed with quiet justice. She thought of Mrs. Hale, the woman who gave her hope, and whispered, You were right. Time does the talking. She looked up at the sky, her eyes soft, her voice calm. Funny how life cleans up its own messes, if you wait long enough. And with that, she walked away from the noise and the lights, not as a maid, not as a victim, but as a woman who had rebuilt her name from dust and dignity.